Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is where you are listening. It's morning time here for me as I'm recording this. And it's lovely to be in your ears. I hope you're well, having a nice day. Today we are talking about nutrients. So we know that nutrition is important for our kids. It's important for their growing bodies. You know, all of our kids' cells require nutrition. Their immune cells, their brain cells, their digestive gut cells, and so on. And so nutrition is important for everyone, but particularly for children who are growing, who are developing. Their nutrition needs are high. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The problem with nutrition, of course, is that within our Western diet, we are often not getting the nutrients that we need. Our kids are not getting the nutrients they need from the food that they are eating. To make it even more complex, which is what we're talking about today, is that those nutrients may be going in if your child's eating a good diet, if they're potentially taking supplements to fill the gaps, but are they absorbing those nutrients? That's the other side of the equation. And we work with a lot of families whose kids have nutrient deficiencies, such as iron, such as zinc, even though they are eating relatively well. So there is complexity to this topic because our soils are depleted in nutrients. The food that so the food that is growing in those soils is potentially lower in nutrients than it once was. And then, of course, we have fussy eaters. We have kids that aren't eating a good range, a variety of foods. They're eating too much processed food. And so that obviously leads to nutrient deficiencies as well. But the specific thing I want to talk about today is that nutrient absorption. Because parents can often feel like, I'm doing everything I can. My child's a relatively good eater, but they're still iron deficient, or they're still zinc deficient, or they're still showing signs that make me think they are lacking in nutrition. So it's not only about what kids eat, but it's also about what they absorb. So this comes back to the gut as well. Again, I often bring things back to the gut because the gut is so impactful when it comes to this area and so many other areas of our kids' health and nutrition. So the gut is like the gateway. We're bringing nutrients in through food or potentially supplements, but the gut is where the food needs to be broken down, the nutrients are absorbed, they're transported. And so if the gut is imbalanced or inflamed, absorption can be hindered. So, for example, if a child is eating plenty of iron-rich foods, but they have low stomach acid, or they have dysbiosis, an imbalance in their gut bacteria, it can affect that absorption of iron. So let's talk about the different factors within the gut that can affect absorption. So first up is stomach acid. So stomach acid is obviously in our stomach, and it breaks down proteins and minerals as well. So it's where things like iron is starting to break down, and zinc is starting to break down with stomach acid in the stomach as well. So that is kind of one of the first parts of digestion. Of course, we have that mechanical chewing action, which is breaking down our food. But the stomach acid, it's quite strong. It's quite harsh. If you've ever had reflux or heartburn, you'll know how, harsh stomach acid feels and can be. So it's designed to break down proteins primarily. And if that is not happening effectively, if we have low stomach acid, then that can really affect how our nutrients are then absorbed. An imbalanced microbiome as well. So the gut microbiome is super important. It's really easy for the gut microbiome to become out of whack, out of balance. And when that happens, that can affect enzyme production and other supportive compounds that help to break down food and support absorption of nutrients. Inflammation in the gut as well is a huge influence on how our nutrients are being absorbed. So when there is inflammation in the gut, let's say like from as a result of food intolerances or allergies or again a imbalance in our gut microbiome can lead to inflammation. It damages that gateway and can lead to leaky gut, poor absorption, and absorption of things that shouldn't be being absorbed through the gut lining and into the bloodstream as well. We talked a bit about parasites last week. We focused on parasite cleanses. If you missed that, you can go back and listen to last week's episode. That's relevant here because parasites such as dientamoeba and blastocystis can lead to absorption issues in the gut. They can irritate the gut and directly interfere with that nutrient absorption. And another thing to note here is frequent antibiotics and other medications that disrupt the gut microbiome can be affecting absorption of nutrients as well. Now, this isn't relevant if your child's having an occasional course of antibiotics, even when they need it. That shouldn't be causing, long-term problems. But antibiotics and other medications such as steroids and reflux medication that can affect stomach acid, of course, that's what reflux medication is designed to do, which a lot of kids are on, can definitely impact how our kids are breaking down their food and absorbing those nutrients. So how do you know if your child is absorbing their nutrients from their food or supplements well or not? Let's talk about some of the signs that your child might not be absorbing nutrients well from the food that they're eating. The first one is an obvious one. If they have ongoing nutrient deficiencies, iron is a big one that's really easily picked up in blood tests. So if they have ongoing issues with iron, that aren't improving with an increased intake of food or iron supplements that a lot of kids on, but their levels are not improving, then we want to be looking at that absorption. Things like zinc and B vitamin deficiencies as well are relevant here. If your child has some of the, signs and symptoms of low nutrient levels, pale skin, fatigue, poor concentration, recurrent illness despite a healthy diet. They're getting sick all the time and they're taking a long time to recover, to bounce back from infections. We've talked a lot on the podcast before about immunity infections, how it's somewhat normal for kids to be picking up winter infections, particularly as their immune system develops. But if they're constantly sick and taking a long time to recover from sickness, that can signal nutrient issues, either nutrient deficiencies or low overall levels of nutrients, which could be related to how they are absorbing those nutrients within their gut. If your child has growth delays or they're picky eaters, that can be at play here, and that they can be signs that your child may not be absorbing things well. Picky eating is it can be a really sort of negative perpetuating cycle, because we often see picky eating in children with gut symptoms, gut discomfort, tummy discomfort, which drives the fussy eating, the picky eating. So we always want to be looking at absorption there. And then there's those digestive, red flags. If your child is constantly bloating, they've got ongoing constipation, loose stools, sore tummies, these are signs that their gut is out of whack, out of balance, that something is going on within their gut. and that can be impacting their absorption of nutrients. So iron is the perfect example. As I said, iron deficiency is really common in kids. It's one of the most common nutrient issues in kids. And it's easy, we've got some really reliable blood testing to test iron, which we don't have for all the different nutrients. If we had a really reliable magnesium deficiency test, then I think that would be coming up really commonly in kids as well. So iron deficiency, common in kids. And, we're told when our kids are iron deficient to stuff in the high iron foods and supplements. So we want to get in more red meat, more green veggies, more iron supplements. And as a bit of a side note, the supplements that GPs often prescribe are not the most absorbable forms of iron often as well. And supplements won't solve the issue if the gut isn't absorbing the iron properly. So as I mentioned before, gut imbalances such as low stomach acid, parasites, inflammation within the gut dysbiosis, and imbalance in that gut bacteria are often at play when it comes to iron deficiency. It's not always the amount of iron a child is taking in. So when we're loading up on supplements and food that contain iron and iron levels aren't budging, aren't improving, we definitely want to look at absorption. And I would also argue that every time a child is diagnosed with iron deficiency, we want to be taking into consideration and working on optimizing that absorption, not just taking more and more iron supplements. Iron supplements are, another complex issue. As I said, the form of supplement matters too. So often common iron supplements that GPs will prescribe will contain potentially something like ferrous fumarate. It's harsh on the gut, it's poorly absorbed, whereas iron in something like an iron bisglycinate or in real food supplements such as liver and spleen can be much better absorbed. It's gentler, less likely to cause constipation as well. But really, when it comes to iron, without addressing gut imbalances and optimizing the absorption, the best supplement will not be effective. And, you can give your child all the liver and meat, those iron-rich foods, the spinach, and iron levels potentially won't improve if we're not looking at addressing those gut imbalances. So what can we do? We want to support the gut overall. I'm always talking about this being an ongoing thing that we want to be doing with our kids. We want to be supporting their gut function, their gut health in general. And it starts with stomach acid. So to support stomach acid, we can encourage thorough chewing, slow eating. It's not always all about supplements and things that kids can take. It's about family habits and rituals. Sitting down and eating meals together can go a long way at really encouraging that proper stomach acid production. We all eat too fast. We eat on the run, and kids, particularly at school, they're scoffing down their lunch so they can go out and play. Or, their kids are running around at dinner time and, we're spooning in mouthfuls of food, trying to get some of that food in. If we can slow down meal times, be in that more relaxed state when we're eating. I know this is easier said than done for a lot of kids, but anything we can do to sort of really value that family time at meal times where possible is going to help encourage chewing. Make it a game. Let's all chew each mouthful at least 15 times before we swallow. A lot of kids are gulping food down, and that's not helping that initial stage of digestion. Things like apple cider vinegar can support stomach acid production. Zinc is very important. Adequate zinc levels are important in adequate stomach acid production as well. So those things can all help with stomach acid production. There are certainly more targeted herbs and things like that that can support stomach acid production if there's an issue there as well. We want to feed the gut microbiome, nourish the gut microbiome with a variety of fiber-rich plant foods, fermented foods. That's all going to go a long way at helping the absorption of all of our nutrients. Now, in the show notes, we've got our Kids Gut Health ebook. You can download that for free. That gives you some really practical ways that you can, really enhance and take care of your kids' gut microbiome and your own as well. And, some really simple to follow practical tips to enhance your child's gut health overall. We also want to reduce those gut stresses. We talk about this in the Kids Gut Health ebook that's free for you to download in the link below as well. Processed foods, medications that are unnecessary. So we want to make sure we are only giving our kids antibiotics when they absolutely need them. We want to, look at our kids' medications that they're taking regularly. And if they are impacting the gut microbiome, then we want to make sure that we are replenishing that gut microbiome as well. And, things like food additives and sugar and certain cleaning chemicals that are antibacterial can really deplete gut health as well. I talk about these things more in the Kids Gut Health ebook that you can download in the link in the show notes. And choose supplements wisely. Always get professional support when choosing supplements, preferably from someone who knows nutrition. Look, GPs are great. They have their place, but a lot of them don't have a lot of knowledge in nutrition. They're great at diagnosing, they're great at screening, and they're great at prescribing medications if and when necessary. But when your GP is telling you what iron supplement your child should be taking, I would always recommend getting an opinion from a nutritionist or naturopath. We can certainly help with that, looking at those more absorbable forms, and always thinking about the state of the gut when a nutrient deficiency is flagged for your child. Work with a practitioner, especially if ongoing deficiencies are persisting. Sometimes, microbiome tests, stool tests, functional gut tests can uncover root causes like parasites or microbiome imbalances. And we can certainly help you when it comes to that sort of testing, whether it's relevant for your child, and also prescribing, good quality forms of nutrients that are highly absorbable. So remember, nutritious food is essential, but it is only half of the story. That absorption is the other half of the story. So kids need a balanced, healthy gut environment to actually, utilize, absorb, transport the nutrients that they're getting through their foods and supplements. Otherwise, you're really wasting your efforts in the kitchen, wasting money on supplements. So it's a really important piece of the puzzle. So remember, our Kids Gut Health ebook is below for you to download. It gives you some really practical ways you can improve your child's gut health, and we are here to support you. I will make sure our booking link is in the show notes as well, so you can have a look at the options for booking an online appointment with one of our practitioners. You can also reach out to us on Instagram over at Natural Super Kids and ask any questions that have come up from this episode. I hope it's been helpful, and we would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week.